Okay, it's very. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hello. Welcome to LAF TV. Thank you very much for your trust, patience, and time. I,
That's okay. Thank you.
I don't think we've ever met. It's crazy because around the late 90s, I was kind
Yeah.
of involved in the Glasgow art scene, and when anyone mentioned your name, it was in like hushed tones, like you were one of the godfathers of the conceptual art scene.
I don't know about
Anyway,
that.
well, nice to meet you finally after all this time.
Yeah, you too. Mm.
What are you up to at the moment? What are you up to?
Ah, well, I suppose what do I do?
Ah,
Basically, I'm teaching at the School of Art
oh,
on
cool.
the MFA, which I've been teaching on that since the 90s, actually.
Right.
Um, and I'm researching as well. So I'm researching Crazy Cat,
Crazy
the
cat.
comic from the newspapers in 1910 to 1944.
Okay, was that a
Um,
Glasgow thing or London?
no, it was America. Like it
Oh,
was considered the greatest American comic ever. Still is considered one of the
okay.
greatest American comics ever. Let's see.
Haven't heard of that one. So right up until okay, I recognize it now. Crazy
Yeah.
cat. Okay, wow. That reminds me of an artist who used to hang off. I helped him. I held his legs when he was hanging off a bridge
Hmm.
in northern France once. He was like there was some kind of I forget his name, but he was very good. He just like hanging off bridges. I think that was anyway. Is that a Belfast accent?
No, though I was born in Belfast, but it's
Okay,
further south. It's South Armagh.
South Armagh.
Yeah, just
Okay,
on the
wow.
border.
Okay,
So mm.
so what school did you go to?
It's a good revealing question. I went to St. Coleman's College.
Thank God for that. God bless you. So you're a big kneecap fan then, I
And indeed, yes, I was
really
leaning
good
against
man.
the bus one day, not knowing it. They were playing at the Barras, and their bus was parked outside, but I didn't
Aye.
realize what it was for a while. But
They're one of those bands where the music seems secondary to everything. No, like Stone Roses and all that. The music is
it is,
secondary to the actual thing.
yeah, it's more just they're a symbolic value than
Yeah.
I'm sure people love them more than they listen to the music.
They're the real deal as well. I mean, I was over in at the Laggy Centre, and actually
Mm.
one of the guy's brother, they don't mention it much, but the guy's brother is in the gym there
Yeah,
in the refugee camp.
uh-huh.
He's
Yeah.
teaching the kids there, and they never talk about that. I don't, they're really it's great how they do things. Aye.
Uh,
Anyway, so how was school in South Armagh? And it's probably the 70s or the 60s, was it?
70s, yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
okay.
yeah, I went to, well, St. Coleman's then was in Newry, and
Right.
that was interesting. It was like Newry was pretty volatile.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it was probably not as more like I was brought up in the East End of Glasgow, so all the
Mm.
Catholics went to one school, all the Protestants, no one really understands that. And we fought each
Yeah,
other when we were
yeah.
12. Is that how
Oh
it was for
yeah,
you? You would fight the kids that
yeah. It
crazy, right?
was exactly like that. Yeah, and actually even more sectarian that the posher Catholics would fight the less posh Catholics.
I got a bit of that in Uddingston from Uddingston, a bit of that in
Yeah.
Uddingston as well.
It was kind of yeah. It was crazy, and the army was there, so it's mostly kids versus the army, I would
Oh,
say.
good.
So it was a pretty rough time that way.
And so will you get into music and art from an early age? I'm
Into
just
music,
assuming you're into music, I assume.
yeah, totally into music,
Uh-huh.
immediately from like 12, but art, not so much because just didn't get exposure to art until I went to Dublin.
Aye.
Um, there was, and you didn't get much exposure to music because most musicians wouldn't tour to Northern Ireland.
I've heard the Clash say that they were the first, but I'm sure they weren't. But I think the Clash were one of the big ones.
They were one of the, like, that was kind of like, I was going to say that would be getting late because that would be 77, 78.
Uh-huh.
But before then, no one would tour. And even after the Clash, no one would tour.
Aye. So you
It was
never
just
seen anybody live? I mean, when I was lucky, I was 13, 14, 15. I was going to Barlands, you know. I was really
yeah,
lucky. So I suppose you had to wait. To,
yeah. Well, there are lots of people who wanted to see, Bowie and Stones and anybody,
Boy, who are Boy? I've never.
Bowie, David
Oh,
Bowie.
Bowie. I know him, right?
Right
David Bowie.
accent.
Okay. Oh, so you must be a little bit older than me. Okay. Bowie. I've never seen Bowie. And the Stones, really, the Stones.
Yeah,
No.
I'd like to have seen them. I've never seen them.
Still kid if you want. Bowie, not.
It's true.
So who was maybe when you're four? I mean, I was Adam. I always say I was Adam the Ants when I was coming up. That was the first thing. I'm quite an obsessive guy, so I was into. I was really obsessed.
Yeah.
W- Did they pass you by? Were you into something about that
Well,
age?
yeah, it was. I was into punk a lot.
Aye.
So it was kind of like everything from Patti Smith through Television, and the Voidoids, Ramones, Sex Pistols, Buzzcocks, all of that. I'm a bit
Undertones, SLF.
undertones, yes, undertones, and Stiff Little Fingers. Saw
Yeah,
Stiff Little Fingers a few times. Once I went to Dublin, I got to see bands. So I
great.
got to see Wire, got to see XTC, people like
Wire,
that.
really? Why?
Yeah,
Wire?
and
Because
The
they
Cure.
stand up. They stand up. They're like somehow they stand up. The lyrics, the whole package of Wire is like a perfect
Yeah,
art thing.
yeah, they kind of curated themselves
Yeah,
very
there's one
carefully.
song about Outdoor Miner is the song, right? You know,
Yes, yeah, good song.
drives me
Uh,
crazy.
yeah, so and The Cure, I saw The Cure way back
Hmm.
uh, as well. So saw all those kind of things then in Dublin, and since then I've
Right.
been able to keep seeing people. But art, no, there was no art until I got to Dublin, and even then in Dublin, there was a few people. Nigel Rolfe, who's an experimental performance artist,
Hmm.
got to see him. I got to see Boyce once walking down the street in
Who?
Thomas Street. Joseph
No
Boyce.
way. Okay, he's like a hero, a big hero of the Scottish art
Yeah,
scene.
I had no idea who he was.
Right, but so he's just walking down the street, you remember him?
Yeah, he did a show, and he had the fishing jacket, and he was
Wow.
outside the gallery where he had the show. But I had no idea what I was looking at for a long time. I was more educated into neoclassical art
Right.
by someone I was seeing at the time, and older work. It was only when I came to Glasgow that the artists in Glasgow began to educate me.
Hmm. So we did you go to Dublin to study?
Yeah, I did. Studied English and French.
So that's a thing. That's a route from Belfast, Dublin, that many people would take. So you got your
Yeah.
hires.
Well, yeah, I got A levels.
Oh, okay, well done.
And then from A levels went to Dublin. And Dublin, yeah, I think like a lot of people like my age went to Dublin because you'd never experienced Ireland, without without the army, without the
Yeah,
troubles,
I
without that
suppose.
whole situation. So
Yeah,
to go to a
Dublin's a
place
bit.
where it was like real life as opposed to a war.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I've romanticized about everything, even like Cuba and all that. And then you meet someone from Cuba, and then you're like, oh shit, it's not quite what I thought, you know? And I think
Yeah,
it's the same with Belfast. But I've had girlfriends from both sides, and I
yeah,
was lucky enough to experience both sides, and they're both beautiful, you know?
yeah,
It's like how Nick say, you know?
yeah,
But in Dublin, it's
yeah.
more, I suppose, like London or more English.
Yeah, as people weren't obsessed with, the trouble is everyone is obsessed and everyone is worried which school did you go to and what's happening and what's going on down the road tonight. But in Dublin it was more kind of, do you want to go to the pub? Here's a gig.
Yeah.
People were just living everyday life.
There was a place called Whelan's I've actually played in. I don't know if you know Whelan's. Do you know it?
Ah, yes, I do. Yeah.
Great place. I think it's still going.
Right. Oh yeah, I think so,
Aye.
definitely. There's a whole renaissance of kind of Irish folk music happening at the moment as well,
Oh,
with
that's
people
good.
like bands like Lankum.
I love them. Aye.
Yeah, well,
I
they're
like
kind of
this.
leading the way, but there's a whole bunch. Ye
I like this.
Vagabond.
Yeah, like dark, the really dark, atmospheric, almost pagan, isn't it? It's a
It is.
pre-Christian and medieval kind of thing.
Yeah, they've kind of gone back to a very interesting source, and the same Lisa O'Neill and Ye Vagabonds,
Mm,
Francis Flynn. There's a whole bunch of these people, and it's like
yeah,
a whole new wave of Irish traditional music. Very experimental, electronic as well, and
cool.
folk. It's good.
Yeah. So you were in Dublin. So what brought you from Dublin to Glasgow then? Was that the
Ah,
art school or
no, I've never gone to art school.
me neither? They
I
wouldn't let me
came,
in.
no, well, I didn't even know, I wasn't aware of it at all. I came to go to the university to do a PhD.
Okay, Glasgow Uni in the West End, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay.
so that's why I came. And then I ended up studying history of medicine, English literature, history of medicine.
Great.
Yeah.
Glasgow Uni is such a fantastic building.
Yeah,
And the whole, I mean, the West End around the 80s and 90s was incredible before
it was
it
kind of
came
very
on.
different.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to like just wandering around, you know.
Yeah.
Which you still can do. You can still wander around in the park.
Yeah,
This
you're
park, luckily,
allowed.
Botanic Gardens in Kelvin Grove is still there. But
They
it
are.
seems everything else when I go back now is like, wow,
It's so
strange, right?
gentrified in the West End.
It's
Like there
just,
are Porsches all down the street where I live. There's about five different Porsches on the street, and yeah,
yeah. Oh, you're lucky. You live in the West End. Good.
I do. Well, I got a flat back in the 80s and I stayed
Uh-huh.
in the flat.
Right.
And so it's a tiny wee garden flat that
Uh-huh.
survives in this midst of all of this wealth
Yeah,
around
yeah,
me.
well done. You're a little
Which is,
island. So when
yeah,
you're in Glasgow, it's like 80s, 90s, 90s.
yeah.
Um, and how do you get, I suppose the art scene and the music scene and the students as well. Were you going out like to the Vic or where were you going?
No, see, the art school really wasn't on my radar. I was going to Queen Margaret,
Ah,
Union.
QM, the QM,
I
aye.
go there, go see some bands. And it was only, how did it happen? I'm trying to think how it happened. I think I ended up being, I was working on an exhibition. I was working on a few exhibitions.
Hmm.
Um, and one was for the Wellcome Trust. I was still working for the Wellcome Trust, Historian
Right.
of Medicine. And I was
Okay.
working on an exhibition for about asylums, the history of asylums
In Scotland.
in
Or-
Scotland. So
Wow.
I spent 2 years going around to every royal asylum and other asylums in the country just as they were shutting down.
Wow.
And
That
I
must have
was
been wild.
collecting. It was incredible and
Mm.
yeah, quite, sort of, I thought, traumatic at times.
Yeah, I remember when I was a very young kid, just around Uddingston, Hamilton. There was one there in Bothwell, I think. Do you know Bothwell?
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was, and
I think I was
people
there.
used to escape. And it
Yes.
was always like, "What you can don't go out the night. Someone's escaped."
Well, there were big high security ones as well, which still exist. And I went to those as well. Um, so I went to all of them, went to
Did you
Barlini Special Unit
did you
too.
document did you document all that?
No,
Or-
because I was working on this exhibition called Out of Sight, Out of Mind.
Okay,
Um, and there's almost nothing online about it because someone asked me about it earlier in the week and I was searching.
it's crazy,
But
isn't it?
I collected all things like ECT machines, straitjackets,
Oh,
all
really?
the paraphernalia. And that was shown in the exhibition as well as photographs, histories, case histories.
Uh-huh.
So I was working on history from below. So you could tell the story of patients from their records and the letters in their records that were preserved.
Wow. Have you still
So
got
it was
that
very,
stuff? Where did you
sorry,
where was the exhibition? Where,
in Kelvin Grove.
Kelvin Grove, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I didn't, until last week when I had to search it all out again, 500,000 visitors. Won
Wow.
a Gulbenkian Award for the year, the best exhibition in the
Well
UK
done. Man, I've
because
probably
of
seen it myself. I didn't even realize.
I think it was the nature of the subject matter. It
Yeah.
was the fact that no one had ever talked about asylums and mental health in that way before.
Mhm.
It was always from the doctor's perspective and whatever. So this was the first time. So a huge amount of people came
Mhm.
because basically everybody has a link to it in some way through their families. Everybody knows someone.
Everybody is. I would personally,
Yeah,
my opinion is everybody's on this spectrum now. That's what they call it. I think we
yeah.
all are, and we get in and we go in and out.
Well, that was it. It was, and so it was the first time I remember Kelvin Grove was terrified no one would want to know about these things, but
Uh-huh.
everyone was desperate to know and identified and saw it and was fascinated. So that got me to the artists like Julie Roberts, Douglas Gordon, Christine
Okay.
Bourne. They all kind of were really interested in my knowledge of history of medicine.
Right.
And I was able to link them into history of medicine, which they
Hmm.
all used in varying degrees. And
Are
I could
you,
connect.
Christine was really into that.
Well, I worked a lot with her, like
Yeah.
all the way through the years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And with Douglas, because he was looking at films of shell shock at the time. And
Yeah.
The Welcome had those films of shell shock, and they had all the kind of material that he really had dreamt of.
Mhm. What year would
It
this
would,
be? Can you remind me what year?
it'd be about 95.
Okay, wow. I've definitely seen it. I was definitely in there. Probably don't remember. 95 was a crazy time for me, but yeah, yeah. And the
It
name of the
was
exhibition?
it was out of sight, out of mind,
Outside.
or
I'm sure I've
out of
seen
mind,
it.
out of sight. I
Yeah.
always use it because
Wow.
they
And
put.
and so it's not documented really, but you've got the hard copy.
Well, even then, I don't have a hard copy. I
No.
suspect it's documented in Kelvin Grove, as I'm sure
Okay.
their archives has the documentation,
Uh,
because it was all done through them. So they would have the documentation. It was the first
Okay.
exhibition I had really done.
Did you curate it? Would you call yourself a curator?
Well, yes, but I kind of learnt on the job.
Yes. Yeah, of
Um,
course, yeah.
and so doing that, I kind of came out of it thinking I could curate, and people thinking, well, he must be able to curate. So I kind of bluffed my way from that sideways.
Right. So with that, I've got you into like places like transmission and was it Modern Institute probably hadn't started by then, had it?
Hadn't, no, didn't exist at all.
No.
I got
Transmission,
into,
yeah, but that's been going for a long time, right?
yeah, I got in transmission. I would visit it, and all the artists there, I got to know them. And they
Ah.
were very good at educating me into what conceptual art was and
Oh,
what I was
really?
looking at.
Well,
Yeah,
can you tell
very.
me? Because I'd love to know.
That would take a very long time.
Oh, shit. Okay. But that's a good answer.
But
It is.
yeah, but it was so, I was used to looking at things that represented other things. And I knew about Peter Howson and I knew about
Oh, really? Okay.
all of that
He's a
generation.
conceptual artist, right? I see a commercial artist.
Well, he's a figurative artist.
There
He
you
lives
go.
around the corner from me here. I see him kind of every other day walking his dog.
Okay, good.
Um, and all of those painters from the 80s.
Yeah. The
Um,
colorists, I suppose, after the colorists, but that kind of
yeah,
style, right?
yeah. So I kind of knew of them, and then I was looking at stuff in transmission, and that was kind of like, well, people would explain, well, it's about the idea behind the work. It's not just
Hmm.
what you see; it's the idea behind it that
So
generated.
would you be like, I suppose you got paid to do this show in Kelvin Grove, and you left uni, did you have any other jobs or did you go straight into the art scene and become a professional art scene person,
Uh,
so to
well, I
speak?
went into the Welcome Trust after I left uni. I was in the Welcome
So that would be
for a few
funded,
years.
which is a hot topic at the moment, this funding thing. So you
Yeah,
would get funding from where?
I got a salary. I was a Welcome Fellow.
Right.
So I was studying, basically at the uni as
Yeah,
a
I remember
fellow.
because I used to get housing benefit, dole,
Yeah,
grants, and I would be doing
well, I
portfolio
did that
courses every
too.
year.
Yeah, I did before that, maybe after that, I did the Thatcher scheme where you got £10 extra
Oh, I don't know.
if you taught yourself how to be a business.
Uh,
So I met Alan Dunn, who was an artist, and he was on it. And he said,
uh
they said, what's your business? He said, I'm an artist, want to be a small business. I
Okay,
said, I'm a curator, writer.
right.
And then we got together and I wrote an essay for him for his
Uh,
first catalogue, for his first show. So I did that, got off the dole, and then I got the job at CCA, curating, not as director, curator. So I was
wow.
head of program at CCA.
Is that what,
Uh,
98, 99 or?
it would have been about 98. Yeah.
So you've been in CCA a long time then, yeah? Wow.
I have in various guys. I did leave at one point and then came back.
Yeah, yeah.
So there as head of program,
I've
and
got
that
a
was
few funny experiences in there. I put on a show with Momas
oh yeah,
a while back.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I was thrown out once when Grant Morrison, do you remember there was a Grant Morrison night? You remember
Well,
that?
it was a few because I don't know if he DJ'd there, but he did a show. He did
A
he was
variety show. It
all
was really strange. It was like a 70s TV show kind of thing. It was really cool, actually.
ah.
But
Well,
I
he
got,
did two
yeah.
shows based around drawing and comics.
Okay.
Because I've always had that interest in comics, so
Uh-huh.
I invited him to be in the show. But it was a whole history of comics, but it was also a history of drawing. And that
Right.
was, I think, with Toby Webster.
Yeah, yeah.
Toby worked in the CCA as head of install team.
Okay. Before you were
So,
there.
no, just while I was there.
He's the head
And
honcho now, isn't he?
he
The head
is,
man.
yeah. Well, that was at the time he was head of install, and he was probably putting together the ideas for Modern Institute.
Right.
Um, and so between us, we did this drawing show, and then Grant Morrison was in the drawing show. And I
Okay.
remember the Momus connection as well, because I think he did a few things over the years.
It was
Um,
just pretty recently that I put a thing on, but it kind of got hijacked by the guy from the bar, and I don't want to go into that, but Saramago Bar kind of hijacked the show. It happens to me a lot. I kind of organize things, and then someone like
yeah.
bands like the Makeup and the Art School, and
Ah,
even Optimo and things like that. I was always on the sidelines. I'm sure we've met each other anyway. So you're at the CCA. You've jumped from Glasgow Uni. You've done this curation show, and now you're kind of on the scene.
I guess, though I've never totally, I'm very antisocial.
Good.
So, yeah.
Don't blame
So
you, man. Anytime
I've
I
never,
got social, it always ends in tears.
well, and also once you get to those kind of positions, everybody wants, they want you to curate them. They want a show.
Yeah.
So if you get too friendly in any particular area, that's dangerous. It's better to be kind of
Mhm.
slightly distant.
Well,
So
that's why I left Glasgow. It was this thing about, I call it brown nosing or ass kissing, and I kind of done the opposite. And so I got cancelled before it was cancelled. I'll tell you a story quick. It was a transmission party. You might have been there. It was karaoke. Charles S was singing "I Left My Heart in San Francisco," and I
mhm,
was doing gas with David Shrigley and Douglas Gordon and smoking
yeah,
joints. But it was this helium. I'd done some helium, and I
yeah,
had. Looking back now, I see what happened because it can affect people psychotic reaction to helium, which I'd never tried. I was young, and
uh,
I was with Kathy Wilkes at the time, but I ended up pouring ink over Charles Esch, and he damaged his eye, and it was a big, terrible thing
oh,
that
I
happened.
remember
And I
that.
ran away, and someone punched me, and blah blah blah. But that was the
Uh,
end of my relationship and my art career.
ah, well, I wasn't there. I don't go to parties,
Yeah, but I bet
but
you've
I'd
heard
heard about
that
that.
story.
I just heard about it third
Aye,
hand.
so then I had just left after that. But so tell us, what is one of the best things or the best? It sounds stupid, like greatest achievement, but at that time there was some amazing things going on with all these artists. I mean, there was all the people from this one year seem to become now all quite highly successful, highly
Yeah,
paid independent professional artists. It's an incredible year, right? You know what I'm talking about.
it was a sort of wee generation to itself.
And it probably was to do with Toby.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think it was. Actually, I don't
Okay.
think Tolkien was really established then. He came after and
All right.
he picked them up and built the Modern Institute around some of them.
Right.
I think it was some of them, they were very ambitious. Some of them got picked up by London galleries. But what happened was they all moved as one. So if one of them got as anything an opportunity, they would invite the others or say to the curator, you should really meet these
Uh-huh.
other 10 people.
Yeah.
So they kept moving as a kind of organism. And so they all got opportunities and they all became quite well known. Um, and then that didn't happen in the next generations. The next generations sort of revolted against that in their own way and sort of were more individual and separate and more cellular.
So was that a
So
political thing, a social thing?
it was, well, which the ones moving
Well,
together was the social thing,
yeah.
and they
But
were
you
all
think,
kind of looking out for each other.
yeah, I mean, so there wasn't like a teacher at the time that they all were under or anything that brought them together,
There were a few teachers that were very important to them. Um, Pavel Bukler, who
right?
was head of fine art, Czechoslovakian, you know, who Czechoslovakian dissident who left Czechoslovakia in the 70s and came, and he brought a lot of the conceptual energy because Eastern Europe was much more conceptual. So he brought that. But there was David Harding, who in environmental art, he was
Right.
very important to them, and Sam Ainsley as
Yeah, I
well.
know all these names. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, right. Okay.
So all of that was happening, and Sandy Moffat as well. Um, and
Hmm.
then the generation after that, they weren't part of that. So they were all, and they were more individual and they weren't necessarily conceptual. There was a bit of a revolt against being conceptual.
Right.
Some
Okay.
people, many people didn't feel they were conceptual and, felt they were emotional or they were expressionist or they were interested in material or,
Hmm.
they didn't want to do this. So it fragmented into more individuals and it's continued like that, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and until more recently, which has been more around identities now.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, do you make your own art? Are you're basically you're writing as well? I know. Did you write for Variant?
I did write only once,
Okay.
twice. I wrote for Variant, I think maybe two or three times.
Yeah. Always used to
Yeah,
baffle me. I love getting it. I would read it and I would be
yeah,
like, "What the hell was that?"
yeah.
But I
So
loved
I
it.
knew Lee very well, but I think
Yeah, he's a
Lee,
great guy. One of the few that I
yeah,
really had a lot of time for. I'd meet him in the street, and and we'd always have a laugh and a chat, and no,
yeah,
there was no ass licking, no bullshit, not trying to get something. I was maybe
yeah.
trying to get an article off him, maybe, but I never.
No, he was a lovely guy, and he was very purely principled, which I think left him cornered eventually,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
eventually, as welfare services closed down and became much more, it was like a labyrinth to try and get through. I think that crushed him on the one hand, not wanting to sell out on the other
Mm,
to, funders, etc. He just got more and more out on his own, left stranded. I think. I'm not sure, but
yeah. I mean, it was still going strong when I left 10 years ago,
there was an
20 years
issue
ago.
recently after his death to,
Mm,
celebrate Variant and sort of remember the achievement.
hmm.
Um, but it was a very critical thing. So I think eventually he was kind of burning bridges in terms of survival, funding survival, So I think that was very difficult. And he did ask me to write a few things, but I think eventually I was head of CCA. I
Yeah.
founded GI.
Oh,
I
shit.
did Venice Biennale. I
Okay.
was
You were what
becoming
he's fighting against.
I, yes, exactly. And we got on very well, and we would, we knew this, and he would
Hmm.
understand, and he liked what I was trying to do with CCA in terms of the open source thing. So
Hmm.
he
Yeah,
was sympathetic to all of that, and he could see what I was trying to do within the constraints of trying to do that.
yeah.
But I think for writing in the invariant, that was becoming problematic, maybe.
Hmm.
So only did a few things, but they were nice. I was very generous of him to ask me to do them. I
Yeah.
quite pleased not to do them.
And so were you, but do you also make art as well as write? You,
Well, I photographer.
yeah, that's right. I've seen really like, but you ever have shows or do you print your things out and things?
I do, and I develop in the kitchen here.
Oh, great.
Um,
Oh, that's
uh,
old school.
but yeah, so I do digital and analog, and I for a long time I photographed protests,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
I've done a book, which I had
Okay.
a copy. Don't know where my copy of the book is. I had a copy of the book recently, and the book was photographs and writing. So I've tried to put the two together at different times.
Right.
Um, and that was kind of interesting as well. And I've done exhibitions of various things. I photographed the School of Art after it burnt down the first time.
Really? Wow.
They let
I've,
me in to photograph that. So
What do you
photograph.
think happened there?
Well, I think the first time, basically, it was, as they say, there was
Right.
someone had foam, and the foam
Hmm.
connected with the back of a projector. The gases from the foam ignited the projector, and it went up the wall because the panel was off the wall,
Yeah.
and it
Just an
shot up.
accident
Yeah, and it went up through the ventilation system. Just a perfect storm of many accidents together.
and not enough preparation or not enough, the health. I don't know how you'd say it, but everything seems so security conscious about these things happening now. And it
Yeah,
seemed crazy that it wasn't in place.
yeah. Like it was just everything had been going so well, probably. No one
Mhm.
saw it was a sort of particular set of circumstances that all happened at the same time that, was kind of slightly unlikely. And
Yeah.
I think maybe people were kind of more blasé about it and it being unlikely. And it took everyone by surprise. And to be fair, the fire brigade had already done exercises, and that's why it was only half the building was affected,
Yeah.
because they were able to immediately cordon off half the building and control that fire. The second
Mm.
one was a whole different ball game, but the first one
Yeah.
was controlled. But I took photographs of that over 18 months, which was actually strange and emotional and very beautiful.
Yeah,
The
because a
on
lot
the
of it was intact. The library and things were still intact, right?
No, the library was completely gone.
Oh,
The floors,
okay.
everything.
Just
It fell down 2 floors.
ah,
Um, but something like they brought everything out. They had forensic architects who examined it 1 square meter at a time,
mm-hmm.
and they had a guy in who drew everything by hand for each square meter, every object. And they took every object out on a stretcher, a
Mm-hmm.
wooden stretcher,
Okay,
and
well.
then they went through every object and tried to save as many as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and photographed every object as they went, and photographed all the books that were burnt as well. So it was it's fascinating, but also there was a different element of beauty in the bones of the building.
Mm-hmm.
Architecture went right down to the bones, and the bones were just as well made and just as beautiful
Mm-hmm.
um, afterwards. So yeah, I was quite weirdly quite pleased
And that
to
book
have.
is published.
No, they asked me not to publish them, and
I thought,
that's not gone back because I think it was very depressing. Everybody else was deeply depressed because they weren't in. I was in seeing what I was doing, but they
right.
were just, people were deeply depressed by it. So no one wanted me to be publishing a book of the photographs of a burnt out building.
Oh, okay.
Um, so, but a photograph, yeah, and photograph travelers and a whole bunch of things.
And the protest thing, I mean, I used to protest a lot, and then I got into a bunch of. I was in Palestine, and then I done a T-shirt, and I really got disheartened by the whole charity protest thing. And I now just want to go and like the people there say, well, you have to first of all look after yourself, help the people around you,
Yeah,
maybe attack the government directly. Or it was a shame about the universities in the South African Mandela connection. I think you know what I'm talking about. And
yeah.
how do you feel about protesting now and charity work and how how it seems that I think the government want us to be on the streets and they want us to be posting on Instagram because they could just laugh at us and continue what they're doing, right?
It's a nice safety valve. The protests don't do an awful lot. Um, Sometimes they do. Sometimes they put pressure in the right area and something happens. But for the big things, no. And
No.
yeah, so I don't know. And I think the charities, I think, the groups themselves are very skeptical about the NGOs because it becomes a kind of a racket at times.
They're all
You know,
millionaires. They're all getting paid millions.
yeah. Yeah. So I think, Palestinians on the ground were very depressed about that and still are.
Yeah, that's what they
Uh,
told me. Look after yourself, help the people around you, try and kick out these
yeah.
the politicians and direct action, which seems to have stopped. The students in
Yeah.
America have stopped. That's how they changed the Mandela. They went
Yeah.
to Washington and they sat outside, and that
Yeah.
what was what the activists there were saying, focus on that. But it
Yeah.
seems to have it's quite sad
well,
now, and depressing.
it, it sort of it happened and then it stopped happening, and I don't know
Yeah.
why. Maybe it was because it was seen to be over or
No, it's
something.
I've got a more. I don't know if you believe in conspiracy theories or anything, but I mean it's a thing. The brainwashing and brain mind control is a thing. It's not. It's a fact, you know. And I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but I know it's still happening, but with sort of very much less attention.
All right.
So,
Did you photograph the poll tax riots?
uh,
Not in
no,
London,
because
in Glasgow.
no, the poll tax was way too early for me. I
Okay.
only, I only got into photography later. I was
Right.
teaching, I was doing the curating, I was doing writing, and then gradually, kind of middle age maybe hits you, and you
Mhm.
suddenly start looking at the light coming through the window and thinking, I'd love to capture that. So I
Yeah.
started doing photography at night, basically,
Okay.
night classes, and then went to different classes, and then worked my way up, through been taught photography, and then started doing it. And because I was in Mexico a lot,
Oh, really?
and yeah, I was in Mexico during this huge hunger strike, and I was still learning photography. And
Explain the
then,
hunger strike. I don't know what that was.
oh, well, there can be many, but this was a big one that there was 44,000 electricians laid off in one day. So
Okay.
44 electricians went on hunger strike in the main square in Mexico, and they
Mexico
were in a
City, yeah.
cordoned off tent, yeah. And so
Okay.
they were on hunger strike. Everybody suddenly was watching, the film about hunger, the Irish hunger strike.
It's a great
Um,
film,
yeah, they were all watching that on
yeah. On
bootleg
both
videos to
in
find out how long
Mexico.
would. Yeah, well, they wanted to see how long people would last. Um,
40
and
days
I,
and 40 nights.
yeah, you can do more if you sort of take water and yogurt with honey.
Okay.
That's the Greek hunger strike method. So they were watching
Okay.
that. I was invited in to photograph them
Hmm.
because they spotted me on the outskirts of the camp,
Right.
and in very brutal kind of mathematics, they realized, well, he's from somewhere else. If he does this, maybe it'll get international attention. So they let me in to take photographs several times as well, and that was a sort of diving in the deep end of taking photography
Mm.
of strikes and protest.
And where can we see these photographs?
Only online on my Flickr site.
Okay.
They're on the Flickr site, but again, I did come back. I did offer the whole story to the Herald. My teacher at the time, who was teaching me photography,
Hmm.
helped me, and they said, "Nah,
Yeah.
nobody cares."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a real education.
Yeah. And how
There's
did you end up
still
in Mexico? What were you doing in Mexico anyway? Did you go there
um,
especially for that or no?
no, I've got friends in Mexico.
Okay.
So go over for artists there. Weirdly, there's a scene in Mexico that, in a sense, is very like the scene in Glasgow.
All right.
There was one gallery and a whole generation of artists, and they
Okay.
all, at the same time, grew up, and they were the same age as those artists in Glasgow. But I got to know them, so I'd go over and hang
Okay.
out with some of them. So you're looking at the time because we've got a minute left.
Ah, you know this, do you? Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we can like do. I like it when it just cuts out, and then we can go keep going if you want or not. It's up to you. Or take a 10 minute. There's a 10 minute thing because I don't like paying for it. I'm glad I'm Scottish. So I don't want to pay for it.
No, I understand. Well, we can take the 10 minutes. I'll go
I don't
make
like
another
giving
cup.
these companies money.
Yeah, well, I'll
You
go
know, how
make
does
another
Zoom
cup of
make money
tea.
anyway?
I don't know. Not sure.
Especially if maybe they're using us for their.
Yeah, I don't know how they make money.
Right. I cool. Make a cup of tea and
Yeah,
I like to get a whole life story, but usually you have to jump around and we
yeah.
could squeeze it in if you want.
Okay.
And
Well,
thanks. And okay, I'll see you in 10 minutes.
yeah.
Let's just
Okay.
keep.